Today, Rinpoche showed clearly how motivation plays a key role in the results of our actions. He showed how the collection of merit can give rise to a long life and a human body and God's body, as well as some of the other good qualities within cyclic existence. But if it is coupled with method and wisdom, it becomes a cause for Buddhahood.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing I told me. 하정그 또 가보던 뭐 그런 말배로 쇼고 다른 가서 줘야 되는 돈 말아. 쇼고 손자 나주를 왜
숨정압주? Okay.
손정아주 지게들 소노다.
Okay.
소노 소사진도 어떤 돈 말아.
Less so. Okay, that's good. So once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. That's in a 3-volume series. We're currently in the 2nd volume in English. It's in Tibetan in one book, but they translated it in committees into 3 different books. So we're in the 2nd book right now, and I'm going to find exactly where we are. Just give me one moment. 350. Are we that far in? Yes, we are. 348, 49, 350. Napchi. Ne Rinpoche the Kabiyare? Sonamgit Sok Nam?
소나지 소사 되는 돈 말아.
Okay, Sonamgit Sok Nam.
소나지 소나지 레보사 되는 거.
Okay, Sonamgit Sok Nam. Furthermore. Collections of merit. Okay, so we're going to be further, it's furthermore. I don't think it goes that way. I was trying to do that earlier. Like that. The thing is, it's in my ear. Is that better? How's that? Is that all right? Okay, so yeah, that works. So 350 in the Tibetan. And page 94 in the English, where it says, furthermore, you should not misconstrue statements that things in cyclic existence, such as your body, resources, and a long life and a long lifespan, are results of the collections of merit. Rinpoche read that sentence, so that's where we are. And basically, the section that we're in is a section that negates the mistaken view of Hashan, who's in English sometimes named the Chinese abbot or Master Hashan, Chinese abbot. So he holds a specific view of, just as a translator's note, emptying the mind of all thought is the goal, and that this is meditation on emptiness. So this whole section is negating that philosophy that says that believes that that's the only thing you need to do, and that believes that once one realizes that to exclude all of the perfections and practices of generosity and ethical discipline and so forth, because emptiness is higher than that, and emptying the mind of thought is higher. So this section is negating that mistaken idea that Hashan holds. Okay, Digsung Rinpoche.
What that done with the Sajin of the Sajinga Digan Jaji.
So in Jayan Sheba's commentary, it says that there's 5 sections under this.
Rangi Sitangewa, Nibaji, then
the Chi
Rangi Sitangewa, Sonje, Lontangewa, Jeje, Rebakundangewa, Naje, Mimeji, Dutamatangewa.
Let's go, Rinpoche. Nipa Tsik, Sumba Long.
네, 다음부터 다시 되받은게와 다음지.
젠지 도파 젠.
젠지 되받은게와스.
Genji dupa sena
Daba zi jian yi lama
Salon.
yeba gongba de wo tawa yins. Tali shinru tango yo sa din daba marbe.
the view
Dusu tan gewa di marbe.
with the view. Okay, and then
Jian jin daba tan gewa tangba je.
leso.
Niba rang ki ci tan gewa kuzu ta jian yi lama yeba de wo de tawa yins. Wo dan da so kurung ci tan ge dus.
Okay. Then
Niba
long,
je.
sumbalong,
Somba de na long tan gewa.
leso.
Long ma bu zhang de wa.
Then
ane riba de riba kun tan gewa.
okay, analysis.
Riba dang da kun tan gewa.
Leso. Ngapa?
Tene meme shebi do ma tan gewas.
Mime.
Meme shebis. Tat meba tat chuna de ma phomo ma da da jona ji to ma na ba taos.
Leso.
What the
Leso.
three marbe.
Tombani the
What the keep do tan
da
gewa.
da.
Ah.
Gewa. Okay.
Judu kone
Observationless.
shaja wo de ji gi pe Vijen na ja lori tan gewa tan ngare nga.
Okay. All right, so this section is going to have 5 categories, and Rinpoche just went over them quickly, so I translated them. They should be very close, but you'll understand as we read the sections. So the 5 sections are that first it's these ideas that Hashan puts forth, that there is no necessity of continuing the practice of the 6 perfections once one has some sort of realization. So here, the first category is that it's mutually exclusive with what's realized. A second category is it's mutually exclusive with the words. A third category is mutually exclusive with scripture. Fourth category is mutually exclusive when we use analysis. When we use logic, we see that it doesn't pan out. And it's mutually exclusive with the observationless teaching. So that what was put forth about things not having true establishment and things being empty, it is mutually, what has been brought forth by Hashan's view is mutually exclusive with the correct presentation of emptiness. So these are the 5 categories, and these will all be proven within this. Okay, Diksung Rinpoche.
Ta nga ga nan dambo de jin de ba lang jin de ba ge wa ten ba de la sa ni de do wa. Don dambo jin de ba ten ba la ni dambo ngo to ngele ne ngo to ngele jo ge wa mro wa nas ngo to ngele jo jungewa moro nes wa damba che wa de so na chu sa ten ma yong re da so na ju ngo to da ngale ge jo yins ta ba ta che ju ge cha ma ba she go ro de le din sa re je ju de ba la ge wa ten ba ta la ni dambo ngo to da ngale jungewa moro nes ngo to da ngale jungewa moro ne Sona ji su sa ta nima le wa res ta sona su. Ti don da ta san do ta. Sona ji su na jin de bo os. Sona su na jin de bo ku le dans long che dans. Se ren wa su su. Son ba la. Cho ma ja des. Ta la ke ba da she ra da de na. Ta da yin yang. Ta da ge sin na. Ta ba da ta ji chen bi ju xin du rong de re xian tian wa le zo ju gun du du na jia bu su na su le zhong xie song de long ta yi so de wo de su na su wo de ba de yin sa de ba ju ba de ni ge nan dang bu de re
Then Kabarka, the Namchen.
su na ji su jin de bo su na ji su ta su de la su na su ta xie su ni ma ba
Leso.
Sona kuzo deba de longo de chogo de nduyong res. Eshe kuzo deba de chogo de nduyong res.
Leso.
Ne kasa wad sona da eshe kuzo longo de chogo de nduyong re. Eshe kuzo chogo de nduyong res ondra ba. Sona ji sona ji debo Kui le dong long xue de cirenwa su su, songpa lang ans. So nang su ji dreba de kui le dong, kui so nang su saba ina, ane lhada me yi tenzang tu gure, le tu gure. Ane long xue jia chebu yung gure es, long xue dang cirenwa su. Cirenwa su la, cirenwa su la an, chua ma jia des. Tende songpa de ne chue ji yo ma res. Te kani gogure, so nang ishi su de la, tau keba dang, shera dang tena, tau keba dang, shangchu ke sen dang, ne, tuni dubi shera dang teba ina, so nang su ken teba de le, ne kui le dang long shu, sere wa tu sun zhu yung res. Ta so nang su de, shangchu ke sen dang, tuni dubi shera senba ina, taba dang sanje chenpi jul zhu res.
Okay, okay.
Wate kani song du duwa.
Okay. The tambo.
Tambo
Tambo.
ni nan tambo de.
Tambo. Then the Jew, the tambo, the Ming, the Nierland, the Jew, the Yanjer Suranang, the giant
ma
Nierland, Dang, the Jew,
tande
Jew
ma
Ni.
tambo. Yen de ba ge wa ten ba nga ge nan tambo je. Yen de ba ge wa ten ba de la ni de. Ni de ro.
Then tambo.
Ne ni de ro sana.
Leso.
Ngo tu na ngele jung ge wa mo ro as tambo je.
Nguto ngele.
Ngo tu sana la da me te zo de mar ba. Ngele taba ta je chen ba. What the juice want to mo ro anes.
Oh, gonga me.
What the hedro.
Yeah, okay.
So na je tu na je de bone. So na tu na je de bone. So na tu na je de bone. Sha ju sen la so pe. So na tu na je de bo. Kui le dang long shu dang.
Okay, so.
Sere wa su su song ba la.
Okay.
Ne che je ju ma res. Chua ma ja de. Ta la ke ba dang. Shera dang te na. Ta la ke ba shang ju ke sen da tu ni du be shera da te ba ina. So na tu de be de le. Kui le dang long shu da sere wa su sun ru yung res. Shang ju ke sen da tu ni du be shera ji sen ba ina. So na tu de be de le. Ne longu da jogun ru yung res.
Leso.
O del hed mar ba.
Okay, so this first category, which deals with, I believe it's realization, the view of what's realized. It's mutually exclusive with, has two categories, and the first category shows that it's not mutually this idea of the collections having results is not mutually exclusive with them being causes for liberation and omniscience. So it'll make sense in a moment. So it says, furthermore, you should not misconstrue statements that things in cyclic existence, such as your body, resources, and a long lifespan, are the results of collections of merit. They are so only in the absence of skill and means and wisdom. When collections of merit are imbued with these, it is entirely proper that they are causes of liberation and omniscience. There are limitless passages in scriptures which say as much, such as this one. Rinpoche, okay, I believe it ends where it says causes of liberation and omniscience is where the stop is on category number 1. And what this means is that it's not mutually exclusive when we say that the collections of merit are causes for the body of the human existence in the higher realms of cyclic existence, and good resources within those existences, and a long lifespan while you have that existence. So there are these statements that say in Scripture that the collections of merit give rise to these things. So it's not mutually exclusive, according to Jayan Sheba, to say that that is true, but it is also true that these collections of merit give rise to omniscience and liberation. So how does this meet? What is the meaning of this? So the meaning is that according to Scripture, the two collections give rise to very specific results when we're speaking of Buddhahood. When we look at a Buddha is made up of two separate bodies, the form body and the truth body. So then the form body has two categories of the enjoyment body and the emanation body, and then the truth body has the two bodies as well. They called bodies, they're just nominally designated as such, of the wisdom truth body, and the one is the actual cessation within the mind of the Buddha, and the other is the omniscience. One's permanent, one's impermanent. So according to scripture, the collection of merit creates the form body, and the collection of exalted wisdom creates the truth body. So it's saying that that point in scripture is not mutually exclusive with the point that's made here, that it gives rise to human and gods and long life and so forth, because that's saying it gives rise to these if there is an absence of skill and means and wisdom. If the bodhisattva has bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to enlightenment, that he or she must have to make him or her a bodhisattva, and couples that with the wisdom realizing emptiness, then this collection gives rise to omniscience and liberation. So it's saying it depends on the practitioner and the motivation at the time. If he or she has the mind that aspires to enlightenment coupled with the wisdom realizing emptiness, then these collections give rise to Buddhahood. They don't give rise to these mundane things. So it's saying that both can be true, that they give rise to the higher realms, long life span, and nice resources, as well as Buddhahood, basically. And it's showing how both can be true, and it's based on the mental continuum of the being engaged in those practices.
다 죽고도 죽고는 루비 추들 파신 TV 죽고도 죽은 루비 추다 상하게 되는 죽고도 죽은 루비 추니 니고야 노니 말이야 파신 대바지는 소나고 속에 죽고도 루용을 롱고도 주고 이식도 속에 죽고도 루용을 했어.
Okay.
말이야
Parshin Tepa.
파신 대바
Okay, less so.
파신 대바지는 어디 대성도와
Less so. Then
당하제나
Then I
죽고도 롱고도 가서 루르에서나 하게 터는
Oh,
싫어데
then it's
하게 터도 싫어데 네
Tapsheni.
다 가르는 샤주도 샤주 내주라는 주도 그걸 하고 와요라
Less
소소
so.
하고 와요라 소소 진짜 막 고야
Less so.
어떤 게 나한테도 고야요라
Less so.
하고 봐 뒤지 하고 와 나지도 뒤지 하고 와요라
Less so.
하고 봐 되게 안에 조고든 로용어레스 대학도 아
Okay.
사도 공부하니까 안제만 어디 학원에 차용어레스
Bezuku. Okay.
조고든 로용어레스
Then they top down Sherab Drawagare.
싫어 돈이 또 싫어
they top.
조고든 로용어레스
Okay. Then the Doni Dupi Shera.
돈이 또 싫어 공부할 때는 안에 이시 조고든 원이거든 로용어레스 지로와 고대다 나체도 로용 말에
Then a top
타도 어디 하기
Shaju Shuju
쇼주도
Lagom Zuku.
다제도 되죠 공부다
Okay.
타레스
The top.
될라 때네 마음은 조고든 로용어레스
Then they
하고 봐니까 안제만 학원에 로용어레스
less so. Real. Then they Sherab Doni Dupi
싫어
Shera.
돈이 또 싫어
Okay.
되게 네 죽은 로용이지와
Okay, Tuchena. So the perfection vehicle states that the bodies of the Buddha are created in this way. So we have the form body, which consists of the emanation body and the enjoyment body. This, according to the perfection vehicle, arises from the collection of merit. And then the truth body, which consists of the nature body and the wisdom body, or the natural body and the wisdom body, is created by the collection of exalted wisdom. So the truth body, again, the nature and wisdom body created by the collection of wisdom. So form body created by the collection of merit, truth body created by the collection of wisdom. According to Tantra, it's a little different. Tantrayana says that it is method and wisdom that create the bodies of the Buddha, and this is how it's explained. According to Tantrayana, the method part is what creates the form body of the Buddha. So it's by reliance upon method that the enjoyment body, the Sambhokaya, and the emanation body, the Robokaya, are created. I'm sorry, the Nirmanakaya are created. So the Robokaya is form body, Sambhokaya is enjoyment body, and Nirmanakaya is an emanation body. So according to Tantra, these are created by method. What is method in Tantrayana? It's practicing the deity yoga that is found in the 4 classes of Tantra. So the action Tantra, performance Tantra, yogic Tantra, and highest yogic Tantra. So it's practicing the deity yoga, which is within these classes of Tantra, and going through the classes of Tantra. So, for instance, meditating upon Tara, doing the front generation and the self-generation meditations upon Tara. And by doing this, according to Tantrayana, one will basically transform into the actual form body that he or she is meditating upon. So this transformation through method, through practice, takes place where one is doing deity yoga through the classes of Tantra up to highest yogic Tantra, and then this deity yoga that he or she is engaging in transforms into the actual deity eventually. So the form body of the actual deity, meaning the enjoyment body and the emanation body. And then the way that the truth body is created according to Tantra, and the 2 divisions of truth body, the natural truth body and the wisdom truth body, is through the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that is the wisdom part of that. So according to Tantra, the method creates the form body, and that's the practices of the deity yoga, and wisdom, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness, creates the truth body, the natural truth body, and the wisdom truth body. So these are the differences between Sutrayana and Tantrayana in terms of how the bodies of the Buddha are created. Diksum.
What that karsa dama tongpyon siwa, dama tongpyon gishi tege pasha nyi yore, kunji tijin, khaan tijin, khaan tijin.
Gongit Sengare?
Dama tongpyon se tongpan, dama.
Dam.
Luchurum si payu.
Dharma,
Luchurum si geyen. Dama tongpyon lagore.
Dharma, Dun, Bun. Okay.
Dama tongpyon ge pasha nyi yore.
Lochu, Getru?
Kunji tijin, khaan tijin nyi yore. Khaan tijin no luwa desung yore, khaan tijin. Khaan tijin no le, ane suena da gawa jena, ane diru dangan du lo dundugu yore was. Dundugu yore ina, ane la dang donyi gomba ina, ane chugu do zugu marubu jusen yore mara, chongbe yeshes.
The Yanjir Kali Suruna? The Becha Nipa Gari
Gawa
Kalen?
dama gawa tene dindul chigir, ngandul chigir sagwaro.
Okay. Gewa Dama Gewa. Less so.
Chigu yore ina, ane nga ge la gomba tanga, ane donyi gomba la tene, ane la ngone zhuya tanga, ane chugu ngone zhuya maybe jusen yore mara, chongbe yeshes.
Oh, okay, is stated. Then Kon Lochu Rinpoche Getru?
Luchurum gegen.
Gegen. Okay. So there is a master named, I'm not going to be able to get all of this because it's live, Dharma Dunpun, Donpun Rinpoche, who was... Garikepa? Very similar. So this teacher, very similar to a Nalanda scholar. And he was Demalocha Rinpoche's teacher. He has 2 books, and the second book on Tantrayana, we find that just as virtue and non-virtue are causes for the higher and the lower realms, non-virtue being cause of the lower realm, virtue being cause of the higher realm, the wisdom realizing emptiness coupled with deity yoga give rise to the bodies of the Buddha. So he shows how the cause and effect relationship that everyone concurs about between virtue giving rise to higher realms and non-virtue giving rise to the lower realms, and shows just like that is a cause and effect relationship, the deity yoga and the wisdom realizing emptiness unite, and then one is transformed into the bodies of the Buddha through this process in the same way, meaning that the way that cause and effect works in this case, cause and effect works in that case.
What the Lagua, Tony Santan, Tony Santan, San Lutini, and the Lagun were the Lagun by the Nyakayores.
So you first have to establish emptiness, and from emptiness you meditate upon the deity. Without this understanding of emptiness, one can run into trouble doing deity yoga. There can be trouble doing deity yoga.
Never Tony Latron, Zuna Hashawas, Tony Santan, Tony Santan, San Lutini, then the Lagun by the Yabures.
Then Tambo Gari
Tony
Sumpre?
Santan,
The Dihako,
Tony Santan, San Lutel Lagun.
less so. So one needs to first think about emptiness, and then from that thinking of that mindset of emptiness, give rise to the deity. Disa.
Well, that know what so not to so not to what they do. So no Sabaina, Gawa Sabaina, and then also the Hankish the Machina, the Nulchil Laura Mara, Hatamal Chigres, Dibasagina, Nason Chigil Lauro. The Chiguyabaina, and Hanglan, Hagua, Saju Sanguma to Suge, and the Hangwan and Ruata, and
Then the Ngai Tepa Sunam, the Dinju.
Sono to Lagomba, Sono Tauji, Lagomba Tauji, Tony Chiro,
Less so.
is you to.
Oh, I see. So the top Sunan so cheaper. Ale. Okay, so the way that so in terms of the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom, giving rise to the bodies of the Buddha, very similar in terms of that the method gives through deity yoga and so forth gives rise to the form body of the Buddha, and the wisdom being emptiness gives rise to the truth body of the Buddha. So it's stated that this cause and effect relationship occurs, and this is the comparison between collection, Tantrayana's collection of merit and wisdom is the method and union of method and wisdom. So this is how it's explained, and according to Tantrayana, there's the same thing is presented, that virtue, merit give rise to the higher realms and so forth, long life and all of these other things, and non-virtue misdeeds give rise to suffering in the lower realms. So we have these same sentiments. It's just the specificity around the process into the form body that's different.
What does it understand? What did Patient and that terrible Tina Carlos?
So these are what the texts that we have state. It would be interesting to see what the texts that the scientists have written would say, how the actual things are created like this. Things like this are created. Chikshena the Chenrezig, the Lonku Chuku Zuku, the Keleng Amare. La Keleng Amare. Chenrezig? I was saying that I don't think a scientist would establish that there is a form body or a truth body. They would, because in debate you have to have the person you're asking a question has to have an established base. They have to know what you're talking about. Basically, there has to be some kind of understanding. So I don't think that. And he said, "Will they establish God?" And I said, "I don't think science as God. No." No God in science. Me. Yomar. Chenrezig la me. Chenrezig, he says that scientists say they can see that they've seen a God of some sort now. What?
They talk about the Higgs boson as the God particle.
Oh, like a particle. And that's debated though. Yeah, the Khensur hla kelang amari. Kashi the du hla dan drapo kelan.
Yeah.
Yene hla the Christian God dan dra yomari.
다 가서 내중 사배 원도 내중 사배야. 먹고 마셔야 될 사배는 사고 먹고 와요. 되나지 한번 배야도.
Kon judre kelan.
어떠서 체벌 지나.
Senripa judre kuna. Hla yomari judre kuna. Ngatsu de ngama de ngami jepo. The judre. They believe in cause and effect. Science posits cause and effect. The creation would be cause and effect, right? In a sense, that would be how the.
Not an expert, so.
Right, I know, but Rinpoche, if I have to establish someone in the room with credibility for him to believe me, so you are the one in the room with credibility right now. So.
God part is only a name. It's just a
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just
no connection to God.
I just explained that to him. I was the yichu hla, then do the hla mingda, yine hla yomare, zenripa hla kelang amari, hla me kelang.
사 매스나.
Zuken yomari.
내중 사배도.
아.
내중 사배는 먹고 마셔봐지.
내중.
내중 사배로.
어.
나도 통통대하고다.
수천수.
내중 가두이는 배로다. 내중
아, 알레.
사배로. 내중 사배
그래서.
매 마실 할 때로다. 사고로 된 적이다.
So Rinpoche says that we can say that we've seen a God because we have the Nejung oracle who enters into this person, and then we have see a God expressed there. So what would they say about something like this? Konso tetsum shagre, konso de nyune yomare kele.
저동선 내버렸어.
Konso de nyune yomare. Gangen sena de chulu kanga de yure. De me nyomba de konhla. Chulu kanga de yure. I was saying that every religion has something like this where they say, well, there's an oracle, or there's a deity there, or he's a god, or she's an emanation of a this or a that. But a scientist would come at that with doubt.
도바선 해버렸어.
So it's good to have doubt, Rinpoche is saying, to have kind of a doubt about these things.
어디서 사는 몸도 안 왔어.
Rinpoche says there's a lot of things to think about.
어디 소나지 되고 그 르당롱시 다 세령와서도 송발랑 저어면서데 탈라 개발 소나데 타 개발나 되나 그 르당롱시도 비줄도래 샤주그 센터 돈이도 싫어서나
Less
타바 단지제 비줄도래 대신 가가시고 그래서 저는
Lesser. So here, moving back to the text, Lama Tsongkhapa states that there's nothing that's mutually exclusive here when we look at the presentation of the collection of merit and what it creates. So it says, furthermore, you should not misconstrue statements that things in cyclic existence, such as your body, resources, and a long lifespan, are the result of collections of merit. They are so only in the absence of skill and means and wisdom. When collections of merit are imbued with these, it's entirely proper that they are causes of liberation and omniscience. So if the wisdom realizing emptiness is coupled with the spirit of enlightenment, the mind that aspires to enlightenment, then that, when one is engaged in merit, that merit gives rise to the bodies of the Buddha, meaning it becomes cause for liberation and omniscience. Okay, Disan Rinpoche. Then the tambo, the kabaka, the tsar tambo.
소나지 투나지 되고 그 르당롱시 다 세령와서도 송발랑 네 송발랑 하스르와 송발랑 처음에서 오들 카니 고죠 최주요 말레스 카니스 샤주그 센다 돈이도 싫어 세나 소나고 수든 되버들 타바도 단지 챵바 용거레스 네 샤주그 센다 돈이도 싫어 마제나 안을 하다 메이 대상도 용거레스 그 르당롱시 용거레스 다다양 대다게 신나 타바도 단지 쳔비 주신도 롱데스 네 소는 가자 소는 그 수도 왔다 상주가 생다 돈이도 비셔서 생바이나 타바도 단지 쳔비 주 롱거레스 준도거레스
Lesser.
콩가르스나 ngomluruga ren 정화를 송도스 ren 정화래 조조군도 되나 잡소는 소리 좀스
Lesser.
조조군도 와서 소는 소근 대비 인송도와 소는 소 조조군도 되는 잡이 시소리 좀스 어디 탈 되어들다 다 소는 소대 조고도 좀 봐봐 늘어
Do.
조고도 좀 봐봐 농고도 조금 좀 봐봐 소는 소주 농고도 조기 조 아이 예 니는 해지지 어디 칼리테우다
Okay. So Rinpoche reread it. Furthermore, you should not misconstrue statements that things in cyclic existence, such as your body, resources, and a long lifespan, are the results of the collection of merit. So this is one point that's made that is accurate. And it says, they are so only in the absence of skill and means and wisdom. So if there is not an absence of skill and means and wisdom, when collections of merit are imbued with these, meaning skill and means and wisdom, meaning the mind that aspires to enlightenment and wisdom realizing emptiness, these are, it is entirely proper that they are causes of liberation and omniscience. So who said this, Rinpoche is saying? Where is this from? And it says, there are limitless passages in Scripture that say as much, such as this one from the Precious Garland. So Nagarjuna's Precious Garland states, to sum up, the embodiment of form, O King, is born from the collection of merit. So we would say then, based on all of these facts, we are then saying that the form and truth bodies of the Buddha are created by the collections of merit. If they are so, then are they substantial causes or cooperative conditions? How do they create such things? If we're saying that the collection of merit creates the form body of the Buddha, for instance, then is it a substantial cause or is it just a cooperative condition? Plenty J-Chen dan, they triwa japsar.
매거 seed 매거 tree는 거도와 매거 seed 매거 tree는 니len서 말봐
So mango seed is the substantial cause of a mango tree.
대 매거 seed 매거 tree 레발라 사도초 류모부투
Less so. In order for a mango seed to grow into a mango tree, there has to be water and sunlight and earth.
다 롱고도 쪼고도 저 된다 말봐
These are the
니len도 가르자고 그래 현재 시즌 가르자고 고고도
these are the cooperative conditions. So the seed being the substantial cause, and then the earth, the water, and the sunlight, and so forth being a cooperative condition. Then the Sonang Gitsok dan Yeshe Gitsok Lenchi Chechi.
롱고도 쪼고 주이나 니len 현재 시즌
Okay.
어디 두바도
So then a doubt arises when we look at, so knowing this, and we look at the form body of the Buddha, and we look at the collection of merit, is that collection of merit the substantial cause for the form body, or is it just a cooperative condition? The doubt arises.
다 소는 수서 어디지 다니 받을
So we're not answering.
니바랑 같이 현비 칠 인게와내서 니바들 어떤도와
Nipa Gutso. Okay, then
Nipa, yeah.
Rinchen Chewat Sar, that then Tambo La Ewa Ni, Tambo Tsar,
Tambo,
then
yeah.
Nipa, Tambo Nipa,
담불랑어도 다 담불라
Ewa Ni.
예전 내가 내발라 니래도와 뭐도 당에 좀 물어와서
Tambo.
다가지 니바데 랑기치 현비 치사들에
There. Okay, so now we are in still category number 1, but category number 1 had 2 categories. Now we're in the second category of category number 1. So the first category showed that how it's not mutually exclusive to show this collection of merit creating both these higher realm resources and long life and the bodies of the Buddha, the liberation and omniscience. And then the second category, the Nipa Mingare,
니바데서도 그런 걸 나야 지도 그 녀박 계셔나면 도스 녀박
Nyumba.
녀박이 지나면 res
Oh, so
어디래
second is that words like this is like those of a crazy person. Nyumba tsi, crazy words. So thinking that it's different, like words of a crazy person, basically.
예
Crazy words are the literal nyumba tsi, crazy words.
예 renga ngandu jur du ne
Oh,
shwe
I see.
nyumo ba na jang sanje je jo ne ba ma la sa san san ngandu ki jo de ba ma go tu ngolo ne ngandu ki jo yes go wa tu ka sa de nu go wa tu ngandu ki jo ye de ba ngandu ki jo yes de la go do chu ki chi de nyoba ke cha na ba do renga ne ngandu jur du ne shwe da nyumo ba na jang nyeshwe sena le le nga ge le so nyeshwe injirwa
Bless
nyomo ba yi je barwa
Let's
nyomo ba ta je jang sanje jul do se la go was ne ba ma las ka go le renga ne ngwa tu jun ju yin ba da su tin la so ba ga wa na jang ku jun yi se la go dos in je shang chu ju jur men ju so wa 하유 세네도 술라 면시사
Bless her.
좀 계셔도 해봐가 지나면도 산산서서 당지 러사
Okay, so here, this is the second part of crazy words, is the category. Moreover, it looks like you are saying that even ill deeds and affliction that cause the miserable realms can sometimes become causes of Buddhahood, and that virtue, generosity, ethical discipline, and so forth, that lead to high status, causes cyclic existence, but does not become a cause for Buddhahood. So compose yourself before you speak. So it's basically excluding, it's saying that generosity and ethical discipline don't become causes for Buddhahood. They only become causes for cyclic existence. So this school is stating this and calling it Buddhism. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that these are crazy words. This is not Buddhism. Compose yourself before you speak such things, negating, basically saying that ill deeds, non-virtues, becomes a cause for Buddhahood sometimes, and that generosity and so forth only causes cyclic existence. Diksun.
니바 와데 니바 랑게 치당게와 니바 랑게 치당게와 들어와 니바 니바 랑게
Detsko Rinpoche. And just as a translator's note, this is because in the Hashan view, all conceptuality leads to non-virtuous things. Like you can't, through conceptuality, become a Buddha. So non-conceptuality is the only way to it. So all of these things then are negated and become causes of cyclic existence. All conceptuality causes cyclic existence according to Hashan. Just to anybody who's new, who didn't realize that point, what's actually being negated here. Diksun Rinpoche.
다 니바 쿠이 미메지 시제당
Ale.
네 코로나당 게와들 송디 사지 송자지베
Okay.
사지 송디 니바들 송
Okay.
송디네 니바들 송디네 담부터레
Now,
도네
just as now we're moving to number 2. So that number 2 of 1 is done. So now we're moving into actual category number 2, where it says tsik, dangyelwa. So mutually exclusive with words. So now there are 3 categories that will come from this. The tsik dangyelwa gutso.
콘체당 게와들 사지 송디네
There are 3 categories under
송디네 때
mutually
담부터레
exclusive with
담보
words.
도네 템바네 때 온돌레서 담부터는 요래
Less so.
송고는 담부터레 돌레
Less so.
돌레스 예수 돌라 뭐버셔봐 뒤질레소스 예수 돌라 뭐버셔봐 뒤질레소스 시스 버바션도 말봐 시스 버바션도 뭐버셔봐 뒤질레스 예수 돌라 뭐버셔봐 뒤질레소스 what
So now there's going to be 3 categories. This is the first category. It's from the sutra Samuchaya, but it's saying many sutras, but this actually is quoting the Sutra Samuchaya. And it says, adhering to the 6 perfections, generosity and so forth, is demonic activity. So this taking alone leads to a lot of mistaken views, so it needs to be explained.
What the long time the doles Jinsu Drula Ngobra Shemba, Dujile sauce, Jinsu Drula Ngobra Shemba, 6 version.
Less so.
6 version del Dema Maruba, Dema Druban Zesuna, Dules,
Less so. Okay.
Dujiles, or they were that.
Okay, so
All tell Kaji trader.
less so. So many people mistake this. What this means is, here it says, adhering to the 6 perfections, generosity and so forth, is demonic activity. So it's saying that if read wrong, one could read that adhering to the 6 perfections is demonic activity, if read literally. But what this means is that, because it's where it's written is speaking of the lack of true establishment of phenomenon. So grasping at any among the 6 perfections as having true establishment, inherent existence, is demonic activity. And this is evil work. Demonic is kind of, I don't know if I've never seen that translated as demonic or demon, demonic, maybe, demons, maybe, but evil work. So grasping at any among the 6 perfections as having true establishment is evil work. So that's what it means there. As the translators note, in the Heart Sutra we see there is no eye, no ear, no nose. It's similar to that. It's interpreted as there is no truly established eye, no truly established ear. Here is the same thing. This is saying, this adhering to is referring to adhering to them as having truly established nature. So this word adhering is referring to grasping. So grasping at them as having true establishment, this grasping itself is evil activity, meaning that it's the wrong view, it's a mistaken view. But misreading this looks like it's speaking of the 6 perfections themselves. Okay, self-chason.
What do you want to do that?
Less so.
Mebaton is Jimba Shimba dance, Mebaton is Jimba Shimba dance, Chutin Chunzinji, Chutin Swan Sola, Tatanji, Soso Shaba Jewels, on the Shaba Jewels, Mebaton you, Mebar Ton is Jimba Shimba dance, Mebaton is Jimba Shimba, Dele, Jaji Botele, Jimba Tan to the Mama Dula, the Batuba Shene, Jimba Tana. And the Debar Shadan Jewures, Mebaton you, Jimba Shimbatan, Chutin Chunzins,
Dawa.
Chutin Chunzins and now what Shagag Chutin, Balang Chutins, Shuriba Joga, what the Balang Chutins, Balang to Chibashua, the Tushilma, the Troshi Jogamarota. What then are you, Jenan, Balang Chutins, Shagag. Balance in the Kewamar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Kewa Tibashua to Sejil Matu Shewumar. Could you see Kando? To Sejil Tibajuga Matu Kadu in Tibajuga Marota. What did Balanajin, what the Chutin de la Balang Chutins?
Okay.
Then Shagaga Chutin Sha to the what the Tibashua Dune, Chutin Swajmendo, Shagaga Chutin. What the Sukangalo Debare de Jero Madaba. Mebaton is Jimba Shimba dance, Mebaton is Jimba Sheba, Mebaton you.
And the cheek Rinpoche, the Tsuchim Dan Duzi Chuzin, the Ewa Shilopa, the Ewa Ni, the Palang Dang, the
Chutin Chudin is the Balang Chutin, Shagaga Chutin, Sensitive Jarota.
Palang Dang, Sha bird.
Balang Chutin is in the Balang to get to Chibachua to Sejilma to Jogumata.
Jutsuchi. One moment.
그 뒤에지 개한도 어들 treba진도 보고 정도다. 가도 있는 treba지가 말보다. 된나지 바나나지 수진 손도들 바랑 수진 싫어봐서 바나나 수진 손가지 말로.
Okay.
바랑 수진 자가 수진다. 샤다 바랑 버다네. 수진 손도 아주 요새.
Okay.
오바바스.
Upa ale, upapa.
오바발라서 오바바지 오바고는 가리나 고지제 안 강가게 어디 된다 그랬어.
And this sha. Okay. Upapa.
싫어봐도 엔튼 잡으랬어. 막 모르도 엔. 아무지 노소나 안에 엔트 강가대 쇼군 그랬어.
Okay. Me too.
맞지바지 그거데 오바지 거는 그 뭐제네 돈지 이러. 아니 제가 강가로 어디 오바바스 시라바 말해 시라바 오바바. 오바바라 사제벨 로수루제 제바신스 오바바 시라바 시라바.
Okay.
오바 바바 건강지 공원신의 토이나 지히지로 안 참아오 주고든 잡으시 버렸어.
Then Rinpoche, the Jutsengar, the Upapa Jutsengar, nge chinso.
오바 바바
Jason.
오바 바바 건강지 그 상대원 거지 토나 지히지로다.
Okay.
그 토는 다 오바 바바 건강이나 거지 토그.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, where am I? Okay. Just so now, the nipa laewasum, the long nipa
니바들 송고는 송고도
tumble. Okay. Now we have from the Three Heaps Sutra, we have a quote. Confess each of these, descending to the level of objective existence and giving gifts, observing ethical discipline because of a belief in the supremacy of ethics, etc. So here is another quote where we see this and it has to be explained. It's a little clearer in this. Descending to the level of objective existence. Here, this means grasping at the true existence of giving and so forth. So this grasping is a mistaken view, so it's non-virtuous. So that's what is meant. And this observing ethical discipline because of a belief in supremacy of ethics, when we look at the root afflictions, the 6 root afflictions, the 6th root affliction is afflicted view. And the afflicted view has 5 different categories, and the conception of ethics and modes of conduct as supreme is one of the afflicted views that you'll find in there. And this is, in a couple, Rinpoche said, categories, or a couple examples we have in non-Buddhist traditions are the followers of the cow tradition. There are those who act like cows. There's this kind of idea, this ancient tradition of a cow being liberated. So there are these group of people that follow and behave in the ways of cows. And then there's those who behave in the ways of birds in these ancient traditions. There was once, in the owl tradition, the Upapa, there was once a meditator who took an owl skin and put it around himself. And he was able, he as a meditator, achieved a state of clairvoyance and a state of meditative concentration. So others saw this and believed that it was the power of the owl's skin. So this whole tradition formed where they all these people put on owl skins and would sit and wait to become liberated and wait to achieve clairvoyance because they believed that it was this. So Nagarjuna says in one of the texts that people are like ants. One goes one way and a whole bunch of others just follow and go the same way with the rest of the ants without really looking at what they're following and why they're following it. So these are examples of that. And we have to read into this in saying that giving gifts, generosity, one of the 6 perfections, when we're grasping at it as being truly established, is when it says confess each of these, when we have to confess, because it's a mistaken view, when we're grasping at our giving, ourselves giving, or who we're giving it to as being truly existent. So, Nyet Sampa Kanga, Detsuku Demba, acting like birds. So basically, this observation of ethical discipline that's just named as ethical discipline. It's observing some form of behavior because you believe that that will make you liberated, where it's really truth which will make you liberated, and non-mistaken view, not a ritual. So, Rinpoche, we'll take a short break for a snack, and we'll be right back. Tu Chen Rinpoche, She Sobudu.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, before we get started, last week we went over the divisions of the 6 perfections, and anybody who's following along might want to write this down. On page 123 in the English second volume of the Lamrim Chenmo, we have the divisions of the perfection of generosity. On page 149, we have the divisions of ethical discipline. On page 159, we have the divisions of patience. On page 185, we have the divisions of perseverance. On page 211, the divisions of meditative stabilization. And page 223 are the divisions of wisdom. So those are all the page numbers for the various divisions in the second volume of the English. I'm not going to read them all because that wouldn't be appropriate, but you can find them all on those pages and put them into your notes. Digsung Rinpoche.
Oje tangazo dole shindu la ngobra jemba dujile so se long tambro je niba pombo somba meba ton yu jemba shemba dan chutin chunzin je chutin son so la so dada tanje so shaba jo lonye ba je somba tsambi jwa le jwa jenye ba tanje ne to ba wo she yong so mo to ba ne shang chu bo she song ba na la cho ma ja des long song de doa ta long song na dan bo jen su jo la ngo bra jen ba du ji le so she be no de tombi de des tombi de nes tombi de da ni so shin ji lo de shen be kuron la ri che mo kuron se bu doa shenbe kwene hanyu jinsu ne madabe duji lesu sheje jinsu duji lesu tenpa minte jen dona shindu ga jen dona shindu la sombe santen dan shira jan duji lesu ndeba sheshis wataba dolon tombi tena tere doa kale lu da wad sebi doa ta
Okay, so Rinpoche said, let's look at these 3 quotes from Scripture again, and then Lama Tsongkhapa. Oh. Yeah, it must have fallen down. All right, oh well. Be able to hear the beginning, right? So Rinpoche said we're going to look at these 3 quotes from Scripture again, and then Lama Tsongkhapa clarifies it quite nicely. Do not misconstrue the following statements from the sutras. Adhering to the 6 perfections, generosity, and so forth is demonic activity. Then from this 3-heap sutra, confess each of these, descending to the level of objective existence and giving gifts, observing ethical discipline because of a belief in supremacy of ethics, etc. And then from the sutra requested by Brahma, all analysis is conceptual thought. The non-conceptual is enlightenment. It says, the meaning of the first passage is that generosity, etc., motivated by a mistaken adherence to the 2 types of self, the self of persons and self of objects, is not pure and is therefore stated to be demonic activity. This passage does not teach that generosity and so forth is demonic activity. Otherwise, since it mentions all 6 perfections, you would also have to assert that the perfections of meditative stabilization and the perfection of wisdom are demonic activity. This is the first paragraph of Lama Tsongkhapa's points to make about the first quote from Scripture, saying that if you're using this, and again, as a translator's note, this is negating Hashan's view that says all you need is wisdom. but that would negate wisdom too. That would make wisdom a demonic activity if you followed that logically. Dixon.
다 롱tombi ten terendo 롱tombi ten 다니 소 롱tombi ten 다니 소 다니 데 간자가 단지 추지 단지 말베
Less so?
추들라 간자 추던 간자니 요르스 네 추던 간자니 간자다 간자로 나세 간자로와 간자 많이 추근로 추로다 추던 간자니 수 간자도 추 제단네 유주는 추임이 차 추는 세자 유주된 지인스 추인의 세자 이미 차 세자인의 추임이 차송사요래 단단데 네 다 간자가 단지 간자스나 간자 대버 주번지면 지버들 간자가 단지 추 대버 주번지면 단지가 추지 단지 어데 롱 담비 되는 다니 소스 예수 줄라 뭐바셔 뒤질레 소시 뒤된다 데레스 담비 되는 다니 소 신질로도 셴베스 간자가 단지다 짐발라 소바 간자가 단지다 추지다도 좀 셴네 추지다도 좀 젠네 군는 하이 짐발라 소바도 속간로 네 마다바 뒤질레 시제스 예수 뒤질 예수 뒤레소 템바메테스 지르미시 워테 예수도 뒤질레스 땡고요 마레스 땡요 마레스 템바도 반지마 뒤레제 마도 예수 뒤레스 라주요 마레 대송요 마레스 메데 예수 뒤레이나 예도나 신도랑 손베 산데는 싫어짱 뒤레소 더바치시스 what 예수 뒤레이나 안 산데는 싫어도 뒤레이스 저는 더바치스 what 가지들 라도 말아 what longtemps 비된다 더바들에
Less so.
Galila,
So the meaning of the first passage is that generosity, etc., motivated by a mistaken adherence to the two types of self. This parentheses is not in the Tibetan, so it requires a teacher to explain it. So Rinpoche is doing so. What are the two types of self? There's self of persons and self of phenomena. So these are the two divisions. And self of persons refers to the I. So I. Anything that is not I or persons is self of phenomena. So self of persons refers to the I. Self of phenomena refers to anything that is not self, like self of self, self of I. So it's saying if you are grasping at either of these, grasping at person or grasping at phenomena, while you are engaged in generosity or any among the six perfections, then it isn't pure because it is a mistaken conception as the basis. So it's for that reason that it is considered evil or negative. And it says, this passage does not teach that generosity and so forth is demonic activity. Otherwise, since it mentions all six perfections, you would have to assert that the perfections of meditative stabilization and wisdom are demonic activity. So as a consequence to the believing that this first perfection is evil, it follows that because the etc. is there, it would mean that the others are as well, including meditation and wisdom. So it's saying that isn't the case. So self. That's good. Gonga Mebachik. So when we look at the different things, existent is something observed by a valid cognizer. Object of knowledge is suitably taken as an object of awareness. All of these things, object of comprehension, phenomena, all of these are considered mutually inclusive. So they are synonymous of one meaning. If there is A, there's B. If there's B, there's A. These all of these existence fall into the category of grasping at self of persons or grasping at self of phenomena. And when we say phenomena, it is object of knowledge, existent. All of these things are synonymous with each other. So it's anything observed by a valid cognizer that is not self of person is self of phenomena, basically. And that's observed by a valid cognizer is definition of existent. Which is synonymous with phenomena, object of knowledge, and so forth. Digson.
딱 나서나 가서 아이세 나도 말봐 나.
Less so.
나데 네 나데 다시 공부 초통을 뛰네. 나 오냐도 봤다 버렸어. 그 다시 초발을 뛰네. 또비 따봐. 또비 따상도 여러마도 또비 따발마 되봐 나서게 되어 말했어. 나 또비 따상래서 공부가 다시 공부가 거로 공부가 거로 된 답이 저 강사 생에서 말봐. 공부가 거로 되네. 는 가서 따져요 버렸어. 답이 나래마도 따발마 되비 네 라와도 좀 가지요 말했어. 라와도 좀 생수나 는 강사가 다니래요 말봐.
So when we look at grasping at the self of persons, we do so mistakenly. We look at the five aggregates. The five aggregates serve as a collection that come together, and then a name is given, a nominal designation is given on top of these five aggregates. But there is no self that is separate or exclusive from this naming of the five aggregates. There is not an inherently existent separate self. It comes in through dependent origination, this collection coming together of the aggregates and so forth, and then a name of a self, some name, Jeff, for instance. These parts come together, aggregates are parts. So all these collection of parts come together and then serve as a basis for designation, so the basis for a name, and then they are named. But there's no Jeff, there's no self separate from that collection that serves as a basis of designation for naming. There's no separate entity that inherently exists. So this is what is meant by self of persons, is believing that there is a true self that exists inherently or exclusive from that dependent origination. So there is no inherently existent self because it is merely dependently originates through a collection coming together and then a name. So this is what we mean by negating the adherence to grasping at self of persons. Ngay Tsampa Kangalasa.
어떤 땐데 다주 토종을 뛰는 주버 땐는 주버에서 인상 두발마 두버랑 주버 되어 말해서.
So these things are established through dependence. So because of their establishment through a dependence, they are not inherently established. And Rinpoche gave the definition before of person, and it's a being who's imputed among among the five aggregates. Translators note it says among the five aggregates because all beings don't have all five aggregates. Show a formless realm being doesn't have the form aggregate. So they only have four aggregates. So it says a person, a being imputed on among the five aggregates, just so that no one can say, well, hey, so any is a formless being, not a person. So that's why that's in the definition. So definition of person is a being imputed on any among the five aggregates, and because the self is dependently established, it is not inherently existent. Digsung, kanga, ngama kaka Jason.
다주 소송을 뛰는 주버 인터 대범마 주버 랑아 주버 요마도 산타마이나 네 토봉가부터 다전 라지 토만나마도 just 돈이래 산로 공고하르스 말베.
So when you think about it in this way, when you think about there being this independent establishment, this coming together and then this naming, we understand that seeing in the quote from the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge, seeing the five skandhas, the five aggregates to be empty of nature, This is meditation on emptiness. This is what emptiness means. It's seeing that there is a collection, an interdependence that establishes things. There is no inherently existent, separate self that is findable. So this harms, this understanding harms the grasping at true establishment. And by doing so, this harms and gets rid of the afflictions and then the karma that the afflictions create. So what is the phenomena which is not self? So that which is not person that we're speaking of, self of phenomena. What is that phenomena that's not person? The five aggregates, the rid, unshin, trees and mountains and shin. So when we look at a tree, for instance, a tree has many things that come together and then we can say there is a tree. But there is no independent, separate tree that's findable, that's inherently existent. There is merely a tree that is a collection of things coming together and then are named as tree. Dendel tuna dejin shepa tun susumpare. So the Buddha has stated that he or she who sees dependent origination sees the Tathagata. So this is the relevance of this teaching. So it's been stated that he or she who sees dependent origination sees the Buddha, basically. So the meaning of that is so important, so good. So if you can think about a tree, for instance, and say that this tree is not truly established, then other things can be understood in their lack of true establishment as well.
So
when you think of a tree, we say that it is not truly established, but then we could move to the wrong, mistaken idea that it doesn't exist. And then when you arrive there, you're at nihilism, the mistaken view of nihilism, this belief that there isn't a tree. There obviously is a tree.
Tada mayina meba tone jimba tsawa shi meba tone maguba she jimba tone shasu shi somba le tada ma sombi shiros what about kale junte remudwa.
The second scriptural passage means that the perfections are impure because of being motivated by a mistaken adherence and explains that you must confess them. It does not teach that you should be involved in generosity, etc. Otherwise, the mention of a descent to the level of objective existence in the phrase descending to the level of objective existence and giving gifts would be unnecessary, and it would have instead have stated confess the giving of gifts in general, which it does not in fact say. So if, it's saying that it's clear that it was saying the level of objective existence for the reason to show that it's talking about the grasping at truly established generosity, not generosity itself, because those words wouldn't be necessary. Words are always put for a reason. And then Rinpoche the first time read further on, this method of response formulated in the third stages of meditation emphasizes an extremely important point, because Ashan's view misunderstands this passage and asserts that the whole range of deeds is qualified by signs, wherein the deeds are taken to be the apprehensions of a sign of self of persons and objects. Okay.
동의 생바 진비 진바라 있는 취지 진바 상생기 진바 만지비 진바 송자요 말바.
So there are the definition of generosity is the wish to give, or the desire to, the thought to give, I think is literal. And there are three divisions of generosity: the gift of the generosity of the teachings, generosity of fearlessness, and generosity of material gifts.
다 상생기 진바 가서 사타 칸바도 진바 땅바들 상생기 진바 인지로 와. 상생기 진바지 되네 취지지야 진바 진달을 취지받는 취지 진바 인지로 와. 문제비 진바스나 안에 그 신나요 간줄 신나 매버주도나 문제비 진바 말바.
Okay, so the gift of the teachings refers to teaching, teaching the Dharma. So the generosity of teaching the Dharma is the generosity of the teachings. That's what that means. Generosity of fearlessness, or the gift of fearlessness, refers to removing somehow fear from some being. So if some being has fear, for some reason or another, engaging in an activity that removes that fear. So that's another form of generosity. And then the third type of generosity is material generosity, and that's the obvious, giving food and drinks and monies and so forth. These would all fall under material generosity. Dikso.
Lotusman. 취지바 상생비 문제비 진바.
Lesso.
어들 다 진비 데부터 롱쉐 마 롱쉐 진비 롱쉐스 모블루고 어떤 진바 당할 때는 롱쉐 용거스 리지 쳐완 리 첨보 총어 어디서 갈로 진바 자체 중 저be 인사 말바.
Lesso. So according to Nagarjuna states that through generosity comes the resources or enjoyments. And we can see sometimes that's translated as riches, because enjoyments really are referring to the things that you enjoy, cars and so forth. So sometimes they choose to translate it as riches. And we can see that there are various degrees of wealth. We see that some are very, very wealthy, and some have a medium degree of wealth, and then some have a very small degree of wealth. And where did these degrees come from? They come from previous generosity and previous degrees of generosity. A great degree of generosity creates a great degree of enjoyment. A medium degree, and a small degree. So we see how there are varieties of results because of the varieties of causes.
What is the cerebral was?
So this is something also we'd like to ask a scientist. Where do these degrees come from? These people have various degrees of wealth. Where do these come from?
Cerebral kebachi kuzul toba sasuna, and kuzul kale
Scientists are great scholars, so we could ask them, and maybe they would have doubts and then be able to answer. They have doubts like we do. Again, doubt isn't a negative thing, it's a positive thing. It's more of like an investigation. So they investigate like we do. They have doubts like we do. So it would be interesting to ask. And just as a translator's note, Rinpoche is not asking this from a cause and effect. How does some people more rich than others because they made more deals? Means that person. Why does that person right there get to be rich when that person right there has a medium amount and that person has a small amount? Why is that? It's at a more macro level and not the cause and effect level. Decent.
Tata mayin da yinba tune yinba tsawa shi, minba tunwa maguba shi, shi yinba tangwa sha su shi, sun riba le, tata ma sun bi shiris. Deba druba, yinja tan yinja, deba druba zini yinba tangwa da sha gu re sun diri ma du, chitang yinba tangwa sha gu sun gu ma res. 마송 비셔로 고린 타마네 까말라실라 고린 타마로 고린 타마네 랜드 준다 다른 제베 내 신도 체데 내 신지 로도 권네 쉐수 단지 가자 강 최지다기 천진 도시네 체지수 내비셔로사 어때 고린 타마를 어때 대답을 가서 그래 Zimbala suba tu sukangalo tene deba drubandwe ne o deba drubandwe de kaji de deba drubandwe de res shenjulo tu kone sheshu tangje kanza kan chuji da jin tu shene seji su de bishiros what about nyeba chandre
Ale chiro. Let's go. Shingo, rao that shiro.
shiro duzi
Okay.
chandre
Ne senche sudu bi shiro. I'm just trying to find the stop for the second. Okay, well I'll just read through. So Rinpoche, so here, what is meant to be confessed is this grasping at generosity as being truly established, not confessing generosity itself. It's saying, confess the reason that they wrote descending to the level of objective existence in giving gifts would be unnecessary, and it would have instead have stated, confess the giving of gifts in general, which it does not in fact say. So it's negating the grasping at true establishment of the giving and not the giving itself, and negating it in terms of saying that one should confess it, and negating it as a negative. This method of response, formulated in the third or final stages of meditation, emphasizes an extremely important point, because Sashan's view misunderstands this passage and asserts that the whole range of deeds is qualified by signs, wherein the deeds are taken to be the apprehensions of signs of a self of persons, an object. If I believe that's where it ends. Hold on one second. Gorin Tama Ne Jinji Lo Du Tamche Kansa. That all extremely important, because it says that the whole range of deeds. Yeah, I believe that's where it ends. So self of person. It is if every sort of virtuous conceptual thought. Okay, yeah, that's where it ends.
this way
Dig sung.
오야 니바찬로 니바찬 다
So number
송바들
2 is finished. Now number 3 begins.
송바
Zeti.
송바들 송바 젠다 상세다
Zede, yeah.
송바들 네버제
Nechude.
다 송바 젠다 땅오냐비 동생 당스 젠다 땅오냐비 내가 젠바 땅 안에 칼라당 잘라도 그거 낸데 젠바 땅이 있냐비 상루요로 동오냐비 동생 당스 동생스나 동생 배신비 생이 거다 말베 동생 당스
Lessa.
你学堂就当模那边最近了，最近，你六几年学，六几地方，哪个地方，一级当地方都说，东个一那边上路的东山，当模那边东山当最近了，总的，所以先把最近几三年，真的有给予多把堂姐，真的有给予多把堂姐，可松顿这边确实当真一拿是，真的给予多把堂姐。코송도 제비 취지 단지 이나스 짐바 진자 남부 동비동 짐바지 진 강라 짐바 땅야지 짐바지 강라 진사가 유지 네 짐바 진자 남부 동비동 짐바다 진자다 진세도 강로 네 도비 따자르마 따발마 도비랑은 주바 대바 주바요 마레스 어디 송대사 말베 젠데 땅원냐비 동생 당 진바제 내준데 담원냐비 동생도 집 추진 된다 얘기 또바 당지 된다 얘기 또바 당지 그래서 거와레스 나 진바 땅원 땅고냐비 상로데 진바레 내준 동원냐비 상로데 진바레 되어스 거와레 되어스 기 또바 당지 기 또바 당지 대 또바 된 것은 또바니나 또바이로 자든 저런 집이신데 또비세니 또바 단지 코송도 zembi 최지 단지 마레스 그때 이바이나 단지 이나 최지 담에지 따와 녀번나지 최지 담에지 따와 녀번나지 시다다 나젤라 소바진도 나바 단지도 가버리지스 체두시엘라 테노 때도 모르고스 어때봐도 송바들에도 송바
Okay. So number 3 it begins, if every sort of virtuous conceptual thought, such as the generous attitude when thinking I shall give this thing, and the attitude of restraint when thinking I shall refrain from wrongdoing, were an apprehension of self of objects, this misconceives the 3 spheres, action, agent, and recipient. Then it would be right and proper that everyone finding the view of selflessness of objects should completely reject virtuous conceptual thought, just as they reject hostility, pride, etc., and it would be quite wrong for them to purposefully cultivate those virtues. So here are more consequences to this illogical idea. The definition of generosity is this wish to give, or thought to give. So there's a conceptual thought there. And it's saying here that any conceptual thought necessarily is non-virtuous, according to Hashan's view. So he states that all conceptuality, no matter what, be they virtuous or non-virtuous, are mistaken. So the definition of a conceptual consciousness is a determinative knower that apprehends a sound generality and a meaning generality as suitable to be mixed. So that's the definition of conceptual consciousness. So when there is a concept, according to Hashan, then there are signs of grasping at self present. And if there are those, then they're negative. So here it's saying, so the definition So here it says, I shall give this thing, and the attitude of restraint when thinking I will restrain from wrongdoing. So here it's talking about ethical discipline. What is restraint from wrongdoing? The definition of ethics is an attitude of abstention that turns your mind away from harming others and from the sources of such harm. So that's the definition of ethical discipline. So how does one do that? You abstain from harming others through your body, speech, and mind. So it's saying, how could that abstention from harming others lead to some kind of negative place? And how could that be the same as hostility and pride? How could those things have not have dissimilar results? So it's saying, if every sort of virtual conceptual thought, such as the generous attitude when thinking I shall give this thing, and the attitude of restraint when thinking I will restrain from wrongdoing, were in apprehension of self, of objects that misconceives the three spheres, action, agent, and object, then it would be right and proper that everyone finding the view of selflessness of objects should completely reject virtuous conceptual thought, just as they reject hostility, pride, etc., and it would be quite wrong for them to purposefully cultivate those virtues. So it's saying that you shouldn't grasp at virtue, just like you shouldn't grasp at non-virtue, but by engaging in virtue doesn't mean you're grasping at self, because you're not, if you're grasping at the action, agent, and object, meaning that the, for instance, for generosity, the person being generous, the act of generosity, and the person you're being generous to. All of those are not truly established. So if you're grasping at them as being truly established, then this kind of virtue isn't good virtue. It's saying that that it's rejecting. You should reject that kind of grasping the same way you would reject grasping at pride and hostility. But the thoughts themselves, separate from the grasping, are dissimilar and give rise to dissimilar results. And that's why it's a mistaken view, because the consequence is that all thoughts are the same and lead to the same results, and then there wouldn't be any cause and effect relationship left for the varieties of experience. For the varieties of results, there have to be varieties of causes. Ngit sampa diksang, ngatsu karma ju yure.
Oh yeah. That be what they yanan di da. Hoya bujis.
Rinpoche said we'll stop there. It's a good stopping point. And we will do a good, proper dedication at this point. Okay. Tu Chenrezig Rinpoche, Sheda Yapaldu,
Oh yeah.
Me Sarpa, Sheda Pentogudu.
Ngala phen
I said thanked Rinpoche and said it was very beneficial for everyone, old and new. And Rinpoche said it's most beneficial for him. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Gutsi Shapi Denronam, Lamrim Chenmo Kangat Trironam.